Shemai, guys. Welcome back to the Life to the Full podcast, the podcast that helps you make the most of your time here on Earth. My name's Dav Morse, and you are here because you want to redesign your life on your terms. You want to grow in 5 areas, 5 spheres of life to the full: financial, physical, mental, relational, and spiritual health. You want to be fighting fit in all 5 areas. Today we take a little look at the beginning of the story, the beginning of the Life to the Full journey. Back when I was still a teacher, still working in a school full-time, I came across a book that absolutely changed my life. And now, 5 years after quitting the classroom, I've decided to come and share the book that started it all, The Miracle Morning book. Now, there was a time when I was working full-time at a school, and I would travel back and forth in the car, and then I moved schools and I travelled back and forth on the bike. But there was one thing that was a constant, and that was my podcast routine. I would always be listening to some sort of podcast which would educate me, which would teach me things, which would point me in the right directions, which would inspire me. And I was listening to the Bigger Pockets podcast. It is an American show about real estate investing or property investing. And they had a guest on there, a guy called Hal Elrod. And I remember listening to this episode by Hal Elrod and thinking, this guy is the most enthusiastic, excited person that I could possibly listen to. And he was talking about waking up early in the morning. He called it the miracle morning. And he was excited to be getting up to start his day before the world was properly awake. And I thought, that's amazing. I hate mornings. I absolutely detest getting out of bed. I absolutely will not get out of bed until my alarm goes off. And in fact, actually, I will purposely set my alarm so that I can at least have 4 snoozes. But this guy, Hal Elrod, said the miracle morning is what changed his life. And I thought, if the miracle morning can change Hal Elrod's life, maybe I should give it a go. So that's how I came across the book. Like I said, the idea of getting up an hour earlier than I needed to. I timed my mornings absolutely to perfection to give me enough time to have my breakfast, to get showered and dressed before leaving the house. No minute in bed was wasted. But after hearing Hal Elrod on this podcast, I thought, I am going to give it a try. I immediately bought the book. I bought it on Kindle so I could start reading it straight away. And I just devoured page after page of this book. It was so enthralling and captivating. I thought, this guy knows how to create this feeling of excitement and enthusiasm. I have gone back since and reread it and thought, wow, this guy's a bit over the top. But there's a saying that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and a similar thing, when the book is ready, it will. When you're ready for the book will appear. And I just happened to be ready for this book at this time. Hal Elrod, just a little bit of backstory for you. He had a career as a salesman, and he was basically a failure. He was a failed salesman. He was not doing well emotionally, and he had a near-fatal car crash. And he survived after being dead for a few minutes. And when he came out, he was told that he wouldn't be able to walk ever again. And he just decided, nope, I am going to do this. I am going to get myself together. And so he started researching what all the successful people in the world were doing. And he came across these 6 aspects, which he calls the life savers, that to some extent, everybody he could find and read about who was successful were doing some combination of these 6 things. And he said, I didn't know which ones to focus on, so I just did them all. And surprise, surprise, he actually came back from that near-fatal car crash, that injury that left him not able to walk, and he has since then gone on to be a very successful businessman selling the Miracle Morning book, the Miracle Morning practice, and he's got a massive community of people that do this. So let's have a little overview of what the Lifesavers framework is. The Lifesavers, SAVERS, stands for silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing. And so he said that he did all 6 of these things every morning. The idea is you don't have to do them in this order, but when I was starting off, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do 60 minutes. I'm going to have my set time. I'm going to have 10 minutes of silence, 5 minutes of affirmations, 5 minutes of visualization, 20 minutes of exercise, and 10 minutes of reading and 10 minutes of scribing. So the silence part of it, you can do anything. You can do meditation, prayer, breath work, and when I'm doing it, I tend to do a combination of all of these. I spend time first things before distraction. I start the night before, put my phone on airplane mode, and then I start waking up without the distraction of a phone and start with praying, spending time in silence, breathing, and maybe doing a little bit of meditation, focusing on what maybe the day's got coming, focusing on starting the day with God. You don't have to have God in it if you're not a Christian, but that's how I start my day. Then we have A for affirmations. Now, Hal Elrod has got a whole section in the book. Long story short, the affirmations are something that you are committed to and committed to doing. So, for example, one of my morning affirmations, which I read every day for 4 or 5 years. Like I said, the routines change slightly these days, but these affirmations, I still do them, I still have them. One of them, for example, is, I am committed to loving my wife, Rachel, like Christ loved the church, and giving myself up for her. So that's just a small example of something that I would say to myself just to remind myself daily. This is one of the things that I am committed to. I want to make my relationship a priority. I want to make my wife a priority in my day, in my life. And so just reading that and internalizing it is something that was incredibly helpful. Visualization. This is where you mentally visualize your desired outcomes, short-term and long-term. So I'd use this visualizing what it would be like when I am fully financially independent, what it's going to be like when I am 60 years old and I'm able to spend my time helping younger couples, going for long walks on the beach, living on the coast, and etc., etc. And also in the short term, what have I got to do today? I would visualize myself sending emails, because I don't like sending emails, and so that made the whole process a bit easier. I'd visualize myself writing, sitting down at my computer and writing. I'd visualize myself doing a podcast episode, that kind of thing. And when you visualize it, you get these associations in your brain which make the task easier later in the day. Exercise. You can do any exercise you want. I have a routine that changes over the 7 days. So I've got 7-day routine. Monday's different thing. Tuesdays same as Thursdays, and then Friday and Saturday different again. But it's all fitting in the exercise first thing. R is for reading, whatever it might be. I tend to combine reading the Bible with reading something that is interesting to me or that will move me towards my goals. I'm currently reading Le Personnel MBA the Personal MBA, the French edition, and Ezra, which is a book in the Bible. And so spend some time doing that every day, and you'd be surprised how quickly you get through things. And then scribing. He said he wrestled with what he was going to call it, but writing essentially. Journaling, planning, generating ideas, seeing what comes up, getting your thoughts out on paper. And there's a flexibility in the practice. There's a flexibility in terms of how long you spend on each thing, what you do, how long it is. He even has a special section for the 6-minute miracle morning. So even if you don't have time for a full 60 minutes, he recommends starting with a full 60 minutes. And that's what I did, and I really would recommend that as well. But there are mornings maybe that get the better of you. And so if you can dedicate 1 minute to each of these things, then it just starts your day on the right foot. It did change my life. I doubt that I would be out of the classroom. I probably would be still teaching if I hadn't have come across this book, if I hadn't have come across this idea of having a miracle morning where you get up, especially an hour earlier, and especially now that I've got kids, getting up an hour before the kids get up to focus on God and focus on myself. Focus on planning and focus on blue sky thinking. I wouldn't have had the time to start thinking, what else can I do if I'm not a teacher? Whereas having this miracle morning practice gave me plenty of time to formulate a plan to leave teaching, to think about what else I might do, to start my brain just thinking in a different way, rather than just being consumed with schoolwork, consumed with lesson planning, consumed with marking. In the book, Hal Elrod talks about how he wasn't a morning person, and I thought, yeah, I can relate to this guy. I'm not a morning person either. And he said, the miracle morning starts the night before. So when you go to bed, you start, as you're going to sleep, thinking, tomorrow morning I'm excited about getting up to do my miracle morning. And I've got to be honest, Monday morning is my time where I have the longest time to do all this, and it is my favourite morning of the week. I do that because I do most of my exercise in the evening on a Monday, so I just do a little stretch on Monday morning. But I get excited about Monday morning thinking, yes, I get an extra long sort of hour and a quarter, hour and a half to myself to plan the week, to start thinking about how I'm going to move the needle forward in all the areas of my life. So Hal talks about just deciding to become a morning person. And I said to myself, that's it. I'm going to decide to be a morning person. So when I started doing this, the first night, I hadn't even read all the way through the book yet, but I thought, I'm going to try this, I'm going to do this. And so I set my alarm for 6 a.m. And as I was going to sleep, I started thinking about how good it was going to be to wake up early, how great it was going to feel to be up before everybody else, to be getting on with things and making progress towards my goal before anybody else was up. And that was it. I became a morning person overnight. And I would challenge anybody, I would encourage anybody to give it a try. Just give it a shot, read the book, get pumped up, and start waking up an hour early in order to spend time doing these lifesavers. I have been a big proponent of the miracle morning for many, many years. And whenever I have an opportunity to speak publicly, do some public speaking, I always mention the miracle morning. I always say, you know, the miracle morning, if you've heard me speak before, the miracle morning and how transformational it has been for my life. And people have adopted that practice without reading the book. They've adopted this practice of getting up early in order to start the day well. I've got friends who have not got kids who have decided, yes, I'm going to get up early and start the day working on goals for myself, making progress towards the things that I want to do, make progress towards designing a life that I don't want to retire from. And most interestingly, I've had the best feedback from the people who have kids and who said waking up before the kids get up has been life-changing. Waking up and having that time to myself, time with God, time in silence, time reading, time spent thinking about what my responsibilities are, how can I serve my wife, how can I serve my husband, how can I serve my kids well. It just starts you off on the right foot. You don't wake up when the kids wake up and feel rushed from the get-go. You don't feel like the kids are running your timetable, because you are in control. You have taken the time to make sure that you're prioritizing getting up early and working on your goals yourself before the world gets in. And that is equally true whether you have kids or not. It's about not letting the world dictate how you're going to start the day, not letting the world, the outside world, social media, phone calls, WhatsApp messages, not letting those things dictate your priorities for the morning. The Lifesavers program, the Lifesavers routine, is an incredible way of prioritizing yourself at the beginning of the day so that you can better serve others. I haven't met anyone yet so far who's tried it and said, actually, I am a worse person to be around. I'm not so connected with people. It just doesn't happen, because given that opportunity to think, who can I connect with today? Who can I serve today? How can I be of service? Is just a incredible life hack. There are objections. People say, I do my thoughts, writing, my reading, I do that in the evening. Absolutely fantastic. I love that. And I'm a big fan of the evening routine as well, just getting some reading in or language learning in before bed to consolidate some learning, whatever it might be. But starting the day is an incredible life hack. One of the things with teaching particularly, and of course with other jobs, if you're working full-time, you don't have the mindset, the mind frame, you don't have the space to think about how life can change. You don't have the time to think, how can I start moving towards a life that is different from the one that I have? But when you implement these strategies in the Miracle Morning, you can start to have that time. You can start to have time to prioritize designing your life in a way that you want to live, not in a way that society has programmed for you. If you want to try this for yourself, I have a few tips for you. Try getting the book. Hal Elrod lays it out so clearly, so well, so enthusiastically, that it's hard not to get enthused by Hal's enthusiasm. Start by deciding, I'm going to be a morning person. When you go to bed at night, start saying to yourself, I'm a morning person. I'm looking forward to getting up early in order to do my silence, my affirmations, my visualization, my exercise, my reading, and my scribing. And start during your scribing time noting how you feel. Notice how things are changing. Notice how your headspace is freed up. Notice how you have more ideas, more dreams, more hopes, more aspirations, and more time to work towards these goals. If you do give it a try, I would love to hear from you, love to hear how it's going. If you want to have some accountability around this, accountability about getting up early, about spending time doing the savers from the Miracle Morning book, then get in touch with me on Threads or Instagram. I would love to help you to be accountable. I'd love you to say, yep, Dav, I'd like you to keep me accountable, check in on me every day, and as long as not too many people say, I will check in with you every day. We'll do a little 7-day challenge to see how things are going. Can you keep it up for 7 days? Can you keep it up for 30 days? Once again, thank you for your time. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you have enjoyed listening to the Miracle Morning inspired episode. And if you want to give it a try, like I said, get in touch. I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget, you can follow and subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and that makes sure you don't miss any episodes. I love seeing how this podcast changes people's lives, and so if you do have something you want to say, just get in touch over on Instagram, over on Threads, Life to the Full Podcast. Until next time, peace out.